Good afternoon. My name is Mariah Ross. I am one of the technical specialists here at MicroCAD. Okay, and it looks like I am seeing someone come in, typing in the questions that they can hear. All right, sounds good. Thank you for that. So today we are going to be talking with you about the People Flow Toolkit that Autodesk has recently released. And they released this actually at the end of September, so it's very recent. There's a possibility that you guys might not have even seen it. They actually kind of snuck it under the rug just a little bit, but we think that it's going to be a very powerful tool for everyone, so that's really why we want to show this to you. So, how do you get this new add-in that Autodesk is providing? So there's two ways. So first, you can go to your Autodesk account online, any web browser. I think Autodesk does prefer Google Chrome. Once you log into your account, on the left-hand side, there is that products and services, and below that is the product updates. From there, you will more than likely want to look under the older updates since it has passed that 30-day mark. And then after you do expand that, you'll scroll down, find your People Flow Toolkit for both Revit 2021 and 2020.2. So you do have to be on Revit 2020.2. It's just a minor update. There's no really other major changes if you guys are already on Revit 2020. Another way to get to this information is from your Autodesk Desktop App. And if you are familiar with this at all, when you open it up, you do have your My Products tab at the very top. And then if there is any updates, you will see that downward arrow. Currently, I do not have any. I took this screenshot this morning. So everything is up to date for me. So with that, I am going to jump into the software and walk through this for a little demo for you guys. Please stop and feel free to ask me any questions at any point. Since this is a new software, a new add-in, we certainly do want you all to be up to date when you leave here. So you will see on my screen, hopefully, just a very simple kind of Revit outline of a building. I did something that, basketball court, some open gathering space, just have a few different spaces that we can walk through. Of course, this works with much more complex models than what you are seeing on the screen. So by default, your tools or your People Flow Toolkit does come on the Analyze tab. I just pulled it down so we could, quickly and easily recognize the information that we are talking about today. So one of the things I do want to make you all aware of, you still have that path of travel and those reveal obstacles within Revit. These have not been taken away. They've kind of just been added onto with these new tools that Autodesk has released. So hopefully you are familiar a little bit with those, and that's what these are going to, grow upon. So first up is the multi-path tool. So what this is going to do, you're going to pick your start and your stop point, and Revit is going to generate some different ways to go between those points. So bring this up. One of the things that is being recognized now with this add-in is a minimum path separation. So it's not going to take you side by side to the doors we see down here at the bottom because of that minimum path separation. So if I say 6 feet for okay, I'm sure that's all the number we've been hearing lately. Maybe I'm coming from the parking lot out here, and I just want to go to that center of the basketball court. So you will see that it does update and produce 3 different paths at this point in time. Of course, if there is more, it would calculate it, but not at this point. So as you can see, very simple. Clicking on one of these lines here, the information it does provide, it does go to that default line style of path of travel. It tells you that length, what that time is actually taking, and the speed in which you are walking. So great, simple way. but we can build upon that. So one of the things, obviously, that a lot of us are probably dealing with these days is some one-way traffic, some social distancing. How are we kind of controlling the flow of people to the best of our ability so there's not a lot of overlap? And one of the things that Autodesk has provided in that is this one-way indicator. So what that is, it's a generic model. I bring this up here, and you will see there are a couple options in here, a 2-foot depth, and 3-foot depth. And looking at that in a second, we'll explain what that width is actually coming into play for. But this can start to help you actually say, hey, this door is one way in or out. You can actually also create, I would call them travel lanes within a specific space of people walking back and forth so that they're not overlapping. But looking at this specific this one-way sign as we have it. So I'm just going to indicate some doors here. As you will see as I do place this, one of the most important things, let me turn my thin lines off, is this blue line here that's going across. And what that blue line is indicating is where that lane ends, that you are going from one point to the other, from your left to right. So you do want to ensure that those are touching some model elements, such as walls, to appropriately make sure that the one-way is being accounted for. And it's really quick, simple. You can use these drag arrows that we see here to just simply kind of intersect with those walls. Perhaps I put a one-way indicator, an opposite way on this door. Bear with me while I make sure that this is crossing. I can then come in, I can select this path, and on my ribbon there's actually an update, and you can update that path of travel. So if I update, you will see that automatically that path of travel is recognizing and respecting that one-way indicator. It's not taking me, in the wrong way. One of the things that we have learned is you can actually build these into your door family if that is something that you so choose to do. It'd probably be a little bit more cumbersome, depending upon how you all have your door families built, but it is certainly something that can be done. So do we have any questions so far on any of this? That's right, it doesn't look like I'm seeing any. So the next option that we have is our people content. So the people content is actually placing a person with a little social distancing bubble kind of around them. If we take a look at this, we see that it is also a generic model. And editing the type, you'll see that it's very simple. It has a default elevation and then an actual physical distance radius. And as referenced, this 3-foot or 6-foot diameter is from one edge to the other. So just to be conscious of that, that's not necessarily taking into the account, a width of a person or anything along those lines. So just be aware of that. But another great thing is these can also be considered obstacles, much like doors are. So I see a hand raised. Rebecca, do you know what that indicates? They have a question possibly, do you know?
Yeah, so if you guys have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat. If it's a bit longer, in the Q&A section. If it's a bit longer, just let us know. We can unmute you if you want to explain the question. But feel free to throw it in there, the Q&A section, or if you can't find it, even the chat works as well. But I'm not seeing anything just yet.
Okay, sounds good. I thought I saw a hand raised. I want to make sure everything was addressed as we were going through. All right, so getting back to that people content. So as I was saying, just like the one-way indicators, these are also considered an obstacle. So if I would put this gentleman right here in front of our door, I select this path of travel, I update once again, you will see that it is actually going through that third door that we have on the screen. And one of the things to be at this point to be aware of is what that minimum distance was initially that you had input within the parameters. So knowing by default, because I did put the door in here, this is only a 6-foot wide door. Perhaps if you're looking at social distancing, you may or may not want to have it set up that way. All right. Jerry is asking, are these indicators located in an add-on dropdown? So yes, by default, the root analysis and your People Flow Toolkit will actually be docked under the Analyze tab here. I just brought them down so they were kind of front and center for us to look at. So normally it'll be just kind of up here. I forget where they go by default, something up here like this. If you have not downloaded this add-in, you're not going to see it quite yet. So let me drag those down here. Come on, dock. Thank you. All right. So looking at this a little bit more, you can certainly start to define even more one-way doors. If you all aren't familiar, you can actually add what Revit calls waypoints within your path of travel. So if you would select one of your path of travel lines, within the top ribbon, there is an add waypoint. So in this example, I'm just going to place one here. You do have to place it on the line, and then you can go back and manipulate it to wherever you want to place it. So for example, maybe I drag it over here to the corner. It's everything like the length and the time, that is all updating in real time, as this is moving along. Excuse me. So the last new tool that has been provided for us is this Spatial Grid. And this Spatial Grid, bring this up here, there are two patterns that it does create. So there's a square pattern and a hexagon pattern. And you will see you can define the grid spacing. Again, it's defaulted at 6 feet. One of the things to be aware of, again, that is center to center. It's not necessarily taking into account, any actual physical size. So just to be aware of that. And what this spatial grid is actually doing, it's simply creating a filled region within a specific room that you select. So for example, if I select square, I'm going to leave this at 6. I'm going to select what I defined as my basketball court. And then in the options bar, which appears below your ribbon, there is a finish versus cancel. I am going to go ahead and finish that. And you will see that this grid has been placed within the model for you. And just by proof, coming in here, got a lot of overlapping lines, I apologize. From one point to the next, that is 6 feet. This can certainly start to come into play. Perhaps switch this to my hexagon. If you want to start to lay out different seating, possibly you're working on schools, maybe you're in a cafeteria, you're working with restaurants, you're trying to figure out some better layouts during these times that we're all experiencing. You can certainly use that to manipulate it. And of course, just like any other filled region, you can come in here and move these around accordingly, shrink it if you need to, and certainly update as you're going through that. Okay. I showed that, excuse me, sorry about that. So one of the things that I know a lot of people sometimes bring up is what is always considered an obstacle. So on the root analysis, which should be already installed on your Revit 2020, this should already be there. It's not necessary. It's not part of this recent update. Is this drop-down arrow? So if we bring up this drop-down arrow, this is what Revit is going to consider or not consider as obstacles. So you'll see here, it's never going to consider hidden or demolished or underlay elements. And in addition to that, understanding specifically, don't mean to uncheck that, do not consider these model elements. So, really, from what I can remember, just doors is probably not an obstacle. Probably everything else is. But you can certainly come in here and tweak this for yourself. An analysis zone. So again, how is Revit starting to calculate this? So its top is 6'8", which we all know, based upon code, that's the typical. And then that bottom is 8 inches above the view's level. So if you're working on a 0, 0 of level 1, it's going to give you a little bit of tolerance in there. So if it sees a 1-inch difference, it's not going to freak out or anything along those lines. It's going to work seamlessly. Okay, one of the things to be aware of, unfortunately at this time, Autodesk is not supporting multi-level path of travels or anything bi-level, tri-level, anything along those lines. It is just on a single plan. But considering what we're all dealing with, I think this is a great tool. Like I said, this was just a very recent release. Even though I'm figuring out all the nuances some days of this. Does anybody have any other questions that you have about this? Or I guess I should ask, does anyone see a use for this? I know that since this is a recent release from Autodesk, they're kind of even coming back to us and asking if people are going to use this. So, do you guys think this is be applicable for your projects? Okay, so upstairs and downstairs traffic, yes, it's not considering that, unfortunately, at this point. They are hopefully working towards that. As it's just, adding layers, not layers, levels certainly adds to the complexity. But hopefully this will get you something. If not, unfortunately, it can't get you everything at this point in time. Right. Any other questions? Anything you guys want to see more of? I know this is a very kind of simple explanation. No? Okay. Well, I guess, Rebecca, I believe you wanted to speak about some other upcoming events that we have going on.
Yes, but before that, I think I do see another question that just popped in
Yes.
about 6-foot spacing. So I don't know if you want to catch that one before we move on.
Yes, so excuse me, for sure. So is 6-foot spacing mandatory within the building system? No, I don't believe that it's mandatory. The 6 foot is really the number I think that we've all kind of been hearing, lately, really in relation to COVID precautions and regulations. Autodesk kind of just defaulted to that to kind of, suggest. You can certainly come in here. Let me, as an example, I don't know if I would do anything different. Multiple paths. If I say 1 foot, okay, must be greater than 1.3. So if I say 1.5 and go from here to here, you can see a lot more paths were generated because of that minimum separation. So it's not mandatory. It's just kind of, that recommendation right now. You can certainly, as you see, type in a variety greater than, 1.3, whatever is applicable for your project.
Thank you. So if there's any other questions, I guess people can throw them in. But until then, we can definitely go over something exciting we have coming up.
Yes.
So we have our Revit user group coming up in less than 2 weeks. And as you can see, we have it on December 1st and December 8th. We've split it into 2 groups, but if the date for your region does not work, please feel free to register for the other one. It's just a way to kind of get people to talk with others who are in the same region, but register for the other if it doesn't work. But Mariah can definitely talk more about, what we can cover there. But hopefully you guys can all register and join us for that. Bring your coffee, turn your camera on, and, go over everything Revit with Mariah. But yeah, if you want to talk about some of the stuff we'll be going over so everyone knows what the plan is for those.
Yes, so as Rebecca stated, I will be the one hosting the Revit user group. So hopefully I'll get to see some of your smiling faces next time. But a couple of the items that we are going to cover, we are actually going to progress to Revit 2021. I know if you've joined us for any of our other webinars, and this one included, obviously, we are still running that 2020, and even we're going to make that jump to 2021 at this point. But one of the things we're going to talk about, any new features within Revit 2021. So there are a few cool new ones, slanted walls and things like that, that are certainly coming about. We're going to talk about how to download content for Revit 2021. So being transparent, Autodesk out of the box did not download any of the content that you all are probably used to for your Imperial libraries. So if that's something that you all use regularly or certainly want access to, we're going to talk through how to actually go about doing that and some tips and tricks that we have found. We are going to go over the People Flow again, just in case some more people do join us. We're also going to look at generative design, which I believe came out in 2020, of course, also available in 2021. And those are some studies that Autodesk is providing. And then you can actually go through and create some of your own studies. And then I'm trying to think what else was on our list. Some few tips and tricks. And then, of course, if we have time, I know everyone always has questions on BIM 360. So we try to leave a little bit of a window for that to go over any questions that anyone might have. So it's certainly a full docket of information. We'd love for you guys to join us. Bring your colleagues, like Rebecca said, some coffee, and we're going to be with you for, I think we said, an hour and a half. So certainly a much longer time window than what we have for today.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions on that, feel free to email us and we can answer them for you. But we do have all these other webinars coming up, so if any of those interest you, if you're looking for the Revit productivity tools, that's coming up on December 10th as well. But you can reply to any email that has my email address on it, and I can help you out in getting you registered or answer questions that you guys might have. But I don't see any other questions coming in through the Q&A pane.
Okay.
So I think you have gone over everything. Yeah, I think we are all good. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Mariah, very much for going through all of this. And we will see everyone at the Revit user group, hopefully on December 1st and December 8th.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.